What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry it's been such a long time since I've come back to give you an update on what's been going on with us. We've had a lot going on, as we talked about in our Q&A video, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. If you haven't watched that video, make sure you check that video out. I'll leave a note in the cards for you to be able to watch that video first, where Talashi and I both give our side of IVF and how we're managing it as a couple and individually. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check that out. And before you do that, if you are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe if you like this kind of content. I talk a lot about lifestyle content, mostly fertility, but eventually I will talk about some other stuff as well. But for now, we've been focused on our IVF journey, and this is our round 3. So make sure you're subscribed, and if you are subscribed, make sure you don't miss any videos by hitting the bell notification. All right, so let's get into this video. So a lot has been going on. In our Q&A video, I talked about what's been going on with us. We switched IVF clinics. So now we are going to CNY Fertility Clinic, and that's in Syracuse, New York. There are several offices all over the East Coast and the West Coast. There's Colorado, I think there's Albany, I'm in Syracuse, Buffalo, they're building one in Sarasota now. So if you're not familiar with CNY Fertility Clinic, I'll leave a link below, check it out. Dr. Robert Kiltz is my doctor, and I just cannot say more amazing things about him. His approach to infertility and just treating, infertility and the challenges that women face with creating a baby, to me is just not like any approach I've had before. He takes a very holistic approach to infertility. And, I was going to a clinic in Atlanta and, just had a very cookie cutter generic experience. I felt like my protocol was pretty much similar to everyone else that was going there. And also I felt that it was very antiquated. So very outdated protocols. We did 2 rounds of IVF there and it did not work for us. We had 1 successful egg retrieval in terms of being able to actually collect eggs. And then we didn't end up with any embryos, because what you'll find is what I'm finding as well, is there are 2 very polarized sides of IVF when it comes to clinics and patients. And whatever the clinic pushes is kind of what the patients believe is correct. So for example, my clinic in Atlanta really pushed hard about genetic testing. And it was almost like taboo if you were, over 40 and not interested in doing genetic testing. Genetic testing, in my opinion, for women who are older, who don't produce many embryos, it just depends on your personal preference. For me personally, after my first experience where we ended up with 5 embryos and we ended up with 5 and you have to push them to blastocyst stage, which is day 5 of growth. And we lost 4 out of those 5 just in that delay, in that waiting period. And then we had 1 that was strong enough to biopsy to send off for genetic testing, and it came back abnormal. So I personally was devastated by that. I've never actually been pregnant before. And me personally, after hearing so many stories of women who have gone through IVF, done genetic testing, and transferred those genetically normal embryos, still having miscarriage, to me, shows me that that is not a foolproof system. And me personally, I would rather give my embryos all a chance at survival inside of my body, rather than, having someone else tell me, oh, they can make it or they can't, because the system is flawed. There are people that have transferred abnormal embryos that have had perfectly healthy babies, and there are people that have transferred what is called a mosaic embryo, which possesses both normal and abnormal cells. And they've had failures with their normal embryos, and then they transfer a mosaic, and they have a healthy baby. The thing about it is that with fertility and IVF, it's a lot of science, and I'm thankful for the science. I think it's amazing. But I think if you are a faith-based person, I'm personally a Christian, I believe that there is a balance between that science and just letting God and your faith handle the rest. So for me, I would rather leave it in God's hands once the embryos are transferred into my body. They are known to be able to self-correct, so there's a lot of cases, if you do some research about abnormal embryos self-correcting, it says that they can pretty much fix any abnormalities in the cells as they progress through pregnancy. But it's not perfect. So I think it's a personal decision. And what I like the most about CNY Fertility Clinic and Dr. Kiltz is, you know, I did a lot of research before we actually even had our first consultation with him. Once our first round failed, I can't remember how I found out about CNY. I think in talking to a friend of mine who had been through fertility, she had, you know, told me about a friend of hers who kind of had a similar situation to mine, and she had, you know, some failed transfers locally, some failed IVF cycles locally, and then she had luck at CNY. And so I started to do my research, and I always saw them pop up when I was looking for grants and monies, because the other thing about CNY is Dr. Kiltz created his clinic because he wanted to make IVF affordable for everybody. So for about $4,000, you can get a full egg retrieval and a fresh embryo transfer. And that doesn't really include monitoring, but or medications. But $4,000 compared to, like, I think our clinic in Atlanta, had we completed everything, it would have been $14,100. Blessfully, we have insurance, but for people who don't have insurance, because a lot of insurance doesn't cover IVF, $4,000 for the level of treatment, at least that I've received, to me, which was better than the $14,000 treatment I received at my doctor in Atlanta, is well worth it. You know, it's well worth it. So yeah, there's options for everybody. They also do egg freezing. This video is not sponsored, by the way. They're not paying me to say this. I'm speaking solely on my recent personal experience, and I will walk you through all of those details. So yeah, I think the most important thing in IVF is to make sure that whatever clinic you're going to, whatever doctor you're going to, is that you feel comfortable and confident in their competency with their plan for you. And you should be a part of that plan. You should not be in a position where you are just sitting on the end of being dictated to everything and you don't agree with any of it. And that's kind of an experience that I had with my clinic in Atlanta. Is my last cycle that I had there got turned into IUI. If you haven't seen that video or that series, check it out. It's the IVF Round 2 series. But the medication, one of the medications that I was on, called Lupron, really undersuppressed me, and I was taking that every single day. And it really stunted the growth of my eggs. So we ended up having to turn it into an IUI cycle because my eggs weren't big enough for an egg retrieval. And I had about 8, and I was really upset by that. And that, for me, was the last straw. We knew that we would switch to CNY if that didn't work. But we wanted to give it one more chance, just to make sure that, you know, we just weren't being fickle and making an irrational decision about just up and bailing the first time something didn't work. Because no matter where you go, you might have to go through a couple of rounds. For us, this is round 3. So yeah, I feel like, you know, I've been through enough to know what works and doesn't work. I've been through enough to know which kind of provider works for me and doesn't work. And I know what kind of medications, you know, work well for me or not. So enough about the previous experiences. Let's just talk about this experience. So we recently just got back from Syracuse. We had my egg retrieval there, and things turned out much better than the last time. So let me back up. We started the differences. So I started what's called a mini IVF protocol, where I'm taking less medication every day, in hopes that not overstimulating my body will produce a better quality of eggs, and therefore eventually embryos, when, you know, the eggs are mixed with the sperm. So you might get less eggs, but you'll get maybe higher quality eggs this time around. As you get older, you have more abnormal eggs than normal eggs. That's just a known fact. So me being 42, going on 43 in September, you know, each 6 months, or maybe even less than that, each 3 months, my egg reserve diminishes. And then I'm gonna have more abnormal eggs than normal eggs. So yeah, so that was the plan, was a mini IVF protocol. And if you go to CNY, they have these immune protocols that go along with your IVF cycle. And it all depends on your individual situation. If you are diabetic, they will probably have a protocol that's different for somebody who's not a diabetic. If you have endometriosis, they probably will have a different immune protocol than someone who does not have endometriosis. So me personally, I was on immune protocol 3. So my medications included the stim meds were Gonal-F and Menopur. I took human growth hormone and Cetrotide once I kind of got into the stimulation. And then Cetrotide kind of helps to prevent ovulation, and it kind of helps even out the growth of the eggs. And then I was also on letrozole for 5 days in the beginning. And the way it works at CNY is I live in Florida now. We moved here in December. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it here for you to watch as well. But we moved here. So all of my monitoring appointments are considered remote. So I do all my monitoring appointments locally, and monitoring appointments are blood work and intravaginal ultrasounds, where they basically just look and count to see how many follicles you have every couple of days and what size they are. And I went to a fertility clinic here that, you know, works with CNY sometimes. So you can go to any LabCorp, or you can go anywhere you'd like. But me personally, I wanted to go to a fertility clinic that was already in the habit of having to produce results pretty much same day. Because CNY will require that wherever you go that they can give what's called stat results. So that means same day. Because things change so quickly that you can't wait till like the next day. So if you are someone who is going through IVF for the very first time and you are looking to choose CNY, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I am not an expert, I don't work for them or anything, but I feel like I had a very seamless process personally with, you know, going somewhere locally, sending results up to, you know, having the results sent to New York and working on the patient portal with, you know, all the nurses and all the providers there. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me, because that can be frustrating for some people. And I've heard that people have had some maybe not so pleasant experiences with CNY because of communication. But I am here to help you kind of bridge that gap, just so that you kind of know going into it, like what you're getting yourself into. And you have to advocate for yourself. You know, if you haven't heard back from someone, send another email, pick up the phone. If you have to wait on hold for a long time, you just have to sit there and do that. That can be a little frustrating. Whereas the first clinic I went to, the communication was probably a little bit smoother. I was assigned to one nurse pretty much the whole time, whereas at CNY, it's different nurses all the time, because most of their clients are what are considered travel patients. So most of everybody's out of town. People travel far and wide to go to CNY because of the quality of treatment and the affordability. CNY is also open and very inclusive of everybody. So there are no BMI weight requirements. They're not going to tell you to lose weight before you start your IVF cycle like a lot of clinics will. They're interested in success, but they're not going to turn you away because, oh, she's, you know, 200 pounds and we don't want our success numbers to be messed up. That's why a lot of clinics do what they do and turn people away, is because overall they want to have better success rates when people are trying to decide if they want to work with them or not. CNY is inclusive of everyone, LGBTQ plus community, you know, anybody, like, you know, all walks of life. They are very open to everybody, and that's what I like and admire about them. So yeah, so that can be kind of frustrating, the communication, but if you go into it advocating for yourself and knowing what to ask, knowing what to look for, knowing what to expect, if you haven't gotten your lab results back by a certain time, then you know to call your monitoring place and try to help shuttle things along. I am a very like project manager kind of person, so that didn't bother me at all. But I will say, CNY made it very easy. I mean, it wasn't just someone, you know, sending me emails with my results all the time. They would call me every single day. You know, they would call me, they would go over the results from the ultrasound and the blood work. And then they would say, you don't have to write any of this down. I'm gonna upload all your, Blue, stop, sit down, sit, lay down. Sorry, Blue is trying to make a nest. Anyways, yeah, so the one thing I will say about, you know, CNY is yes, there's a lot of things that you need to keep track of. Hi, Lena. Keep track of and facilitate and help on your own, but they are very good about telling you what to expect. They would literally call me every day after my monitoring appointments. They would give me a call probably by like 2 or 3 o'clock at the latest, probably sooner. And they would say, hey, we got your results. Here's what the results were. We're either gonna change something to your medications or we're not going to change anything. And then we would just go from there. So one thing I did like is they pretty much set up all your monitoring appointments for you. They, at least for me, they told me when all my monitoring appointments would be up front. So they scheduled a baseline appointment. They scheduled, let me see, and then I had maybe two more appointments after that. And then we did end up scheduling one more. So I could plan in advance with work, you know, to when my appointments would be and when I needed to be unavailable from work to be able to go to the clinic. And I personally schedule all my appointments as early as possible so it doesn't interfere with my work day, because I feel like once you start doing that, where you're, you know, interfering with work with meetings and things, and then your work gets, you know, backed up, the more normal you can keep your schedule, even if you have to get up a little bit earlier, I would say that worked well for me. So my appointments were usually always before like 8 or 8:30. Yeah, that worked well for me. So yeah, I would say you have to kind of just stay on top of things a little bit more with CNY, but they do walk you through everything and tell you what to expect. And if you are a computer savvy person, utilize the patient portal. They are very quick to respond. They're quicker about responding through the patient portal. I probably asked a million questions. They probably all know who I am, but I am okay with that, because at the end of the day, it's your body, it's your results, it's your experience, and you're only gonna fight for yourself like the hardest. So make sure that you utilize the tools that they give you, which is the patient portal. They have an app that you can download for your phone. So if you're on the go and you're expecting some results or you have a quick question, you can log into the app and, you know, get a quick answer. Yeah, so that was really good. So, okay, so we did a mini protocol. The difference also was that I was only taking medications once a day in the evening. So that was helpful, because my last 2 times I had to take medication in the morning and in the evening. And that became a lot just to keep up with, because it had to be the same time every day within 12 hours. So if you decide you want to get up at 6 a.m. and take your meds, you got to take them at 6 p.m. in the evening. And so only having to worry about one time a day worked out great for me. So yeah, so that was the difference with the mini protocol. The dosages of medications were a lot different. When I, you know, was on this protocol, I was almost worried, like, is it gonna work? Because I was on such a high dose of meds before. I think I was taking maybe like 300 units of Gonalef twice a day, so 600 for the day. And then this time I was on 150 and once a day. And so I'm thinking this is not gonna work, because, you know, technically I had a good response the very first time, but we had all those abnormal embryos. We had one abnormal embryo and everything else just kind of degenerated. So maybe the quality of those eggs that were produced weren't that great. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to let the medical professionals handle this, and we're gonna try mini IVF and just see how it works. So yes, I had 4 monitoring appointments. And then the other tricky part about it is the travel logistics. So I went to Syracuse. I wanted to be at Dr. Kiltz's office. That's the main office. It's a beautiful office. They have a lot of great services there as well, like acupuncture, and it's like a spa in there, pretty much. You walk in and you feel like you're in a spa. So I wanted to be in Syracuse. Traveling for me is not a big deal. I love to travel, just going new places, wherever it is, it's fine. The only issue is that we didn't know when we would have to actually be in Syracuse until probably two days before we had to be there. So financially, that can be a little bit challenging, and you just have to plan for it. I would say put aside about, I don't know. CNY is really good about having hotels that offer discounts to CNY patients. So the room rates were anywhere between like $79 a night all the way up to $89 a night. And that was really reasonable. So you can stay wherever you want, but they do try to help you in terms of making it affordable. Some of the hotels that they have, I think if you go under their resources, you can see the hotels that they work with. But there are a few others that are not listed on there. So if you have a question about some of the hotels or where I stayed, I'm happy to let you know. Just comment below or shoot me a DM on Instagram and I can tell you that information. But the hotel we stayed at, the Craftsman Inn, it was like $79 a night. That was the CNY rate. So just consider that. Plane tickets can be anywhere from, I don't know, it depends on where you're coming from, but I would budget for at least maybe $350 to $500 per plane ticket. It could be less, it could be more, but I would say that's a good average. My husband and I, we both had to go, of course, because he had to give his fresh sperm sample at that time. So, you know, I can't remember how much we spent on plane tickets. I might do a video later and break down all the costs of travel and all that. If you guys are interested, just let me know. But yeah, we flew Delta, and you know, we had like a layover. And the thing about that was that I had to give myself the trigger shot in Detroit on our layover. So what happens is you go on your stims, you take your shots, and then they're watching your progress. And so for me, the nurse told me on, I think it was Wednesday was my appointment, my last monitoring appointment. When she called me that day, she told me that, okay, tonight is gonna be your trigger. So make sure you do it at a certain time. You have to do it exactly when they tell you to do it, because otherwise you could really mess things up, even if it's like off by like 30 minutes. So you don't wanna mess that up. So I had everything ready to go, and she told me, make sure your needles are loaded with the medications before 9 p.m. So my time was 9 p.m. And that was exactly 35 hours before my egg retrieval. So we were ready. We knew that we were gonna be probably leaving. I had a monitoring appointment Monday. She said, your eggs are not quite big enough, and I think you just need one more day. So she said, okay, you know, do your medications tonight, which was Monday, do your medications on Tuesday, and then you are most likely going to trigger on Wednesday, but we still didn't know for sure by then. But we, on Monday, decided that we went ahead and bought our plane tickets because, you know, we have Delta, and we were able to change things if we needed to. But we just, because we kind of had a tight timeline, we had to go ahead and buy our tickets. So we bought them on Monday. We knew that we would probably be leaving on Wednesday sometime. So so she said, okay, one more monitoring appointment on Wednesday, and then I'll call you and we'll give you your trigger instructions. So I went Wednesday morning, knew that, you know, our bags were packed and ready to go, knew we were leaving later that evening. And so we gave ourselves plenty of time to get there, because going up north, you don't know if there's gonna be weather issues, you don't know if there's gonna be staff cancellations. So we gave ourselves 2 days to get there in case something happened and we had to like reroute or reschedule. So I would highly recommend that. Whatever your egg retrieval day is, go at least like 2 days before. Go the night before. So we went up on Wednesday night and my egg retrieval was on Friday morning. So we went up, like, we got in late Wednesday night, and that gave us a whole day on Thursday either to just chill, or if there were some issues, we could have like moved flights around and all that, but we didn't have any challenges. So went in Wednesday for my monitoring, got the call, you know, we're ready for you to trigger tonight, so trigger at 9 o'clock. So I had to make sure that whether I was on the plane or whether we were in our layover space, that, you know, I was ready to go, and I would have done it wherever. And luckily this time my trigger shots were in my tummy. The last couple of times they were in my butt. So this was way easier. And I triggered with the double trigger. I triggered with Lupron and with Avitrel. Yeah, Avitrel. I didn't have any side effects with that. So we leave to go to Syracuse from Orlando, and it was crazy because it was so hot here in Orlando, but we were traveling with winter coats because it was like in the teens there in Syracuse. So we had to bring hats, gloves, scarves, you know, just to make sure that, you know, we stayed healthy and we weren't, you know, just being ridiculous. And then we saw that there was a snowstorm coming. So we were just trying to make sure that we got there and nothing got canceled. So we get to Detroit, which is where our layover was, and we have about an hour of time to kill. The nice thing about Delta, if you fly Delta, is most airports have a Delta lounge, and they have food there. They have, you know, coffee bar, like open bar if you want to have alcohol, which I didn't have any alcohol. But they had like a buffet and all that, and that was great. It was comfortable for me. We found a little corner and we ate. And we, you know, just got ready. We knew at 9 o'clock we had to do the trigger shot. And when I traveled, So my trigger shot medications, the Avidrol had to stay refrigerated. So what I recommend is taking like a lunch bag that you would take, like an insulated lunch bag, and putting an ice pack in it and traveling with your medications that way. CNY will give you a letter to give permission to travel with needles for medical reasons. So they gave me that. Nobody asked me for it, but they were very thorough, and they said if you need it, you have it. If you don't, it's fine. But we'd rather you be prepared than not. So that worked out well. So we got to Detroit, 9 o'clock came around, did the trigger shot, everything was good. So, you know, we end up getting to Syracuse really late that night and got settled into the Craftsman Inn, and, you know, just kind of like went to sleep. And then the next day we just kind of chilled. We woke up late, we laid in bed and watched TV. And then we ended up going, you know, get some food, some lunch, because I wanted to make sure that I ate really well, because they'll tell you the night before your egg retrieval, you can't eat or drink past midnight. That includes water. So I made sure I had a good lunch that day. We had breakfast downstairs in the hotel. It was just continental breakfast. So that was one disappointing thing. I'm a hot breakfast girl. I'm a foodie. So I wanted like a whole breakfast buffet. So I don't know if I would stay at the Craftsman again, only for that reason. Everything else was fine. But anyway, so yeah, make sure you eat really well. We went out to dinner that night. The Craftsman Inn does have a really nice restaurant that's attached to it. So we had a nice like steak dinner there, and you know, we just got kind of time to talk and reflect with each other about how, and check in and see how everybody was feeling. Because I think with all the logistics and the travel, you know, I think it made both of us a little bit nervous about like what happens if we miss our flight, or we were trying to just be positive, but you can't help but think about what if sometimes. So, but everything went fine. They were expecting a snowstorm overnight. So Thursday, like, well, early Friday morning, about like 1 or 2 o'clock, I think it did start snowing, because when we woke up, there was like at least about a foot of snow on the ground. And the nice thing about being there already is that they are used to dealing with this. Our Uber driver, we just Ubered, we didn't rent a car. He pulled up in like a pickup truck. So, you know, we had to get up really early. We just made sure that we gave ourselves an hour to get to CNY, even though it was, well, maybe like 45 minutes, even though it was only about 15 minutes away. We just didn't know if the roads were gonna be plowed that day, and we didn't want to have any delays. And we wanted to not feel like we were rushing our Uber driver. He was super awesome, and he actually had great things to say about CNY. Like, most of the Uber drivers probably know about CNY because so many people come in and out, and they probably have to drop people off there all the time. But like, his sister had gone there, so, and she has kids, so he had nothing but great things to say about Dr. Kiltz and CNY. So that was awesome. So we finally made it there, and I tell you, I walk in that office and it is like a spa. You know, it's dim lights. It feels like walking into someone's living room, you know, a nice chandelier, low lights. There's a lot of people there, of course, you know, but I didn't feel like it was like overwhelming, where it was like a cattle call of people. It just felt like, oh, a lot of people are here today. They're busy, but they run that place like a tight ship. So we get there, someone greets us and checks us in, and you know, it's like a nice like reception, like a nice like hostess almost, not receptionist, like a hostess. She walks in, she, you know, greets us, asks for our IDs, and she takes us back to like a private room. And I thought that was great, you know, a nice private room. We can kind of just like leave our stuff and, you know, just start like unwinding and decompressing. Dim lights in there. So, you know, she brings us there and tells us, you know, someone's gonna come and give you your instructions. Your nurse that's gonna be taking care of you is gonna take care of everything. So that's what happened next. We weren't waiting a long time. You know, they came in, gave us some paperwork to sign off on, and it was time for me to go back to get ready for the egg retrieval, and Talashi got to stay in that room while he got ready mentally to prepare for his semen collection. This was probably like not a pleasant part of it for him. He said he wishes that they would do more to make the men feel more comfortable, because you know, you go to like a small room and it's like a leather couch, there's a TV, but you're kind of like weirded out because you don't know if everything, I mean, everything probably is clean, of course, but you know, as a man going into a room where you know other men have been in there, you know, giving their samples, you know, watching TV and probably like grabbing the remote or something like that, without it being like covered in plastic maybe, or he was saying that our old clinic actually had like little puppy pads, I think, for them to sit on. So you're not just sitting on the bare, your bare butt on the bare leather couch. I do think that there needs to be some way for the men to feel more comfortable. It's a very nerve-wracking experience for them to produce at that time on that day, because it's so important to the process that if they can't produce, then it would completely mess everything up. So, you know, for it being that early in the morning, it was freezing cold. It is not sexy at all. There's nothing sexy about that. I mean, you know, like that's what he said. He was not waking up at 6 a.m. early in the snow to do that like regularly with me. So, you know, like give them something more. Maybe I would say if CNY is watching this, maybe figure out a way, do a survey, ask the men that have been there, is there something else that, you know, how can you guys make the experience a little bit more comforting for them, knowing that it's kind of a tricky process as it is. But anyways, he produced fine. We got through it. He got through it. And then I was taken back and, you know, I changed clothes, got into all my like pre-surgery gear, had like a gown, and they gave me like a cute CNY fertility bag where I can put all my stuff, and they let me keep that bag. So that was like a nice little token. But everybody there was very positive, very warm, very like uplifting about being there. My nurse was great. If you're watching, thank you so much for, you know, taking care of me that day. And they literally just tell you everything that's about to happen. So, you know, get in there, the anesthesiologist comes in, tells me, you know, what he's gonna do, what his process is. Embryology gives me a call and walks through the procedure and the protocol, because you have to make sure that they confirm what they're gonna be doing with the embryos once everything is, once they're made. So for us personally, this time we decided with Dr. Kiltz, you know, upon his recommendation, he recommended that since I'm older, that we freeze our embryos on day 3 and not try to push them so far to day 5. He said embryos want to be in the womb. They're gonna do better in the womb rather than in a petri dish. So, you know, that's not probably always the case for younger women or like, you know, younger eggs, but for older women, you know, your eggs can just degenerate after a while. Sometimes they just wanna be with mama, you know, like your embryos just wanna be back in your body. So that's what we did. They confirmed all of that with me, that we are freezing everything on day 3. And they told me when they would be giving updates, and, you know, they confirmed who I was, my information, and then everything got started. I mean, you know, the anesthesiologist was awesome. You know, I just remember laying back and he was telling me I'm gonna feel like I've had a couple margaritas. And then next thing I knew, I was out cold, and then I was waking up. So it was a pretty quick process. I think I went back around like 8:15, and I think I was back in the room with Talashi by like 8:45 at the latest. So yeah, it was great. They got 12 eggs, which is awesome. The first time we did egg retrieval, we got 11, so 1 more than the last time. At the very first egg retrieval, we had 11 eggs, but only 2 were mature. But this time, we had 12 eggs and 6 were mature. So that tells me that like the mini protocol worked better. It helped me to produce more mature eggs, that's for one. I won't know about the quality until we actually transfer our embryos, but out of those 6 eggs, we ended up with 5 embryos. So I was really happy about that. Great. I mean, that is like 6 eggs. You know, fertilization was pretty good. Maybe one didn't fertilize, but we had 5 embryos. So we had 5 embryos last time, but this time we are giving all of our little M babies a chance, and I cannot be more happy about that. You know, I'm okay with, I know that miscarriage is triggering for a lot of people, and I know that, you know, loss is very hard for people, and I'm preparing my body for that because it could happen. But we're going to speak positivity into this baby, into this body, and this existence. And if it happens, and I know that that was God's will, it was meant for that to happen. They usually say like miscarriage is a result of a lot of different things, but sometimes when you miscarry, you go and do a procedure called a D&C, and that's when they go in and scrape out the tissue that was pretty much what the baby was, the embryo was, and then they test it. And so they can test the chromosomes to see if they were normal or abnormal. And sometimes they do find that miscarriage is caused if an embryo has abnormal chromosomes. So for me personally, I would rather let my body and God decide what to do with that embryo. That's just my personal opinion. Everybody's different. I'm not knocking anyone that's doing genetic testing. If that's what you would like to do and that makes you feel more comfortable, by all means do that. Now, if we had gotten 10 or 15 embryos, then I probably would consider genetic testing, because I wouldn't really know where to start in terms of which one to transfer. Now, the embryologist will grade the embryos, and the way the grading works is they tell you it's very subjective. It's like a beauty contest. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. So our grade of embryos, we have so there's two numbers. The first number is the number of days that it grew, and the last number is the number of cells that it had. They told me that at day 3, they like to see 6 or more cells. So just keep that in mind. So we have all day 3 embryos. We have a 3-8, so a day 3 8-cell embryo. We have a 3-7, I think, yeah, 3-7. So day 3 7-cell embryo. And then we have a 2-8. Would that be day 2? I guess. Day 2, 8 cells. And then a 1-8. So, I don't know. I don't know if they just froze things on day 1. They told me everything was froze on day 8. I'm sorry, day 3. So we have a 3-8, a 3-7. I'm sorry, that's only 4. We have a 3-9, a 3-8, a 3-7, a 2-8, and a 1-8. So those are our embryo grades. They look so cute. I'll show you guys a picture. But yeah, I'm really happy with our outcome. And then, you know, we left from there, packed up our stuff. You know, they gave me some Tylenol. I had a little cramping, but it wasn't anything too bad. Everybody has a different response. You know, some people get ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, and I didn't get that. I don't know if it's because I didn't have as many eggs. There's people who have like 30 or 20 eggs, but I didn't get that. But Talashi did get me a wheelchair in the airport because we had to fly to Mexico for a wedding. And that was probably the perfect way to end everything. We were really struggling to make sure that we could still make it to see our friends get married. And we made it, but we just barely made it because the snowstorm delayed a lot of the flights, and our flight did get delayed, but we still were able to make our connecting flight because that got delayed too. And we were able to get there just a little bit late on Friday night. The wedding was Saturday. It was beautiful. We had a great time. Got to catch up with some of our friends back from Atlanta, and you know, we were able to just kind of like decompress, reflect on our experience, you know, and I wasn't so worried about the updates. I mean, I did get the fertilization update Saturday morning. They left me a voicemail and I listened to it and, you know, talked to them about it. I had some questions and called them back and all that. And then the next update that I got was on Monday. So that was in the morning. That was the day that we left. So we got the update that they had frozen everything on day 3. So that's the update, you guys. We have 5 embryos, and I could not be more happy with my experience at CNY. I encourage you to do your due diligence and research any clinic that you choose to go to. Dr. Kilt, I spent probably like 5 months researching him, watching his IG lives on Sundays. If you want to know more about him and his approach, he does Instagram lives on Sundays at 10 a.m. and also on Facebook Live. If you just go to CNY Fertility Clinic on Instagram and Facebook, you can, you know, you've been notified when he's going live. But a lot of the different practitioners there do lives. They do lives with the embryologists, with people from the Healing Arts Center, which is the acupuncturists and all of that. So, and then some of the nurses that talk about like the travel, logistics, and issues and stuff. So they're very prevalent on social media. And I think that if you're interested in them, you should check that out. You know, give yourself a chance to see how they do things, and then try to make a consultation. It takes a while to get a consultation, especially with Dr. Kilt. I mean, I made our consultation, I think, in June for September. So yeah, so just plan ahead. Just plan ahead. If you're somewhere that you don't like and you want a second opinion even, you know, because at first he was just going to be a second opinion. But after our initial consult, I was like, I want to do a treatment there. So yeah, that's the update for now. We are planning to transfer later this month. So I will make sure to bring you guys along with that journey. Sorry, Lena's wanting me to pet her. I'll make sure to bring you guys along that journey. I do have to travel back to Syracuse for that, and I might just be going by myself this time because we have some, you know, other like family things going on in travel where Talashi might not be able to go. So, but that's okay. You know, you can go back, you know, to transfer by yourself. But I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that this time, oh, that's what I didn't mention. I didn't have Dr. Kiltz for my egg retrieval, but I had Dr. Corley, and he's awesome too. I really enjoyed him. Dr. Kiltz was in another surgery, so he couldn't do my egg retrieval. But hopefully I might get Dr. Kiltz for my transfer. But he did call me after my procedure. He called me like as soon as we got back to our hotel after egg retrieval, before we were headed back to the airport. And he called and just said, you know, he wanted to see how I was feeling, how I was doing. And he just told me that, you know, the cycle is gonna be blessed. Don't worry about anything. We'll take good care of everything. And I appreciated that so much. Like, that was just such a nice touch, you know? Some doctors don't even call you after a failed cycle, and that really sucks. My last doctor, after our IUI cycle didn't work, there was no phone call to see, hey, you know, did you do a home pregnancy test yet? There was none of that. It was just done. So that small little gesture went so far with me. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'm here for you for support if you need it. I've received so much support from people just through Facebook groups and by sharing my experience through, you know, YouTube. So if I can be of any support to you, please let me know. But if you have any questions at all, then let me know. But if not, I will keep you posted, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.